My quiet life exploded. Literally. An HOA president's drone obsession led to unthinkable destruction, but the truth finally caught up to her. Watch how this neighborhood nightmare is resolved. My world exploded around me. One moment I was enjoying a quiet afternoon. The next, my kitchen window was hurtling across the lawn like a deranged frisbee, followed by a terrifying orange inferno. The sound. Oh, the sound was an indescribable symphony of destruction. A deep, guttural whoosh. Then the sickening crunch of timber and the heartbreaking tinkle of what used to be my grandmother's cherished china. Sirens wailed, piercing the sudden silence as they raced towards Juniper Trace. And there she was, across the street, Brenda Sterling, our HOA president, pearls clutched, visor askew, clipboard still in hand, mouthing a pathetic, "That wasn't me," as if I wouldn't know. But I knew. Oh, I absolutely knew. Her drone, still warm and reeking of its misdeed, was lodged in my ruptured gas riser like some grotesque metal parasite. My house. Half of it was simply gone. The roof had peeled back like a forgotten sardine can, exposing my living room to the sky. An outdoor patio I certainly hadn't asked for. Brenda finally blinked, her bossy facade crumbling into pure, unadulterated terror as the horrifying reality of her actions slammed into her. What had she done? I'm Ethan Cole, a software engineer. I'm a quiet guy, truly. The kind who'd rather curl up with a good book than brave a block party. I even read terms of service for fun, if you can believe it. I moved to Juniper Trace in Lake Arden, seeking the serene living and picturesque, question-mark-shaped walking trail the brochure promised. The bitter irony of that promise would unfold in the most spectacular way. My yard was modest, with carefully researched low-water plants, a grill that produced perfectly adequate burgers, and a mailbox that bothered precisely no one, until Brenda decided it did. She was our HOA's self-appointed enforcer of order, a veritable hawk in khakis. Her uniform was her armor, a pristine white visor, a white polo she'd personally embroidered with the HOA logo, khaki shorts with razor-sharp creases, and that ever-present clipboard, seemingly fused to her left hand. She looked like a tennis umpire who'd lost her chair but kept the whistle, and the unwavering conviction of her own supreme authority. All I wanted was to mow my lawn in peace. But Brenda, she wanted to catalog my very soul. Her campaign of terror began subtly, with complaints about unauthorized garden stones, just a few pretty rocks I'd collected from my own property and arranged around my flower bed. Innocent, right? Not to Brenda. She escalated quickly to subversive fence slat spacing, measuring the gaps with calipers she wore like a weapon on her belt. Then came the morally ambiguous taupe of my garage door, a violation she'd invented herself after a 45-minute staring contest with my house one Tuesday morning. She even carried a Pantone color wheel for crying out loud, specifically to torment homeowners about their paint choices. But nothing compared to the surveillance. A drone plastered with tacky HOA stickers began to hover over my property like a mechanical hummingbird with a federal subpoena. It filmed my recycling, scrutinizing my sorting technique. It recorded my golden retriever, Chuck, the most pacifist dog you'd ever meet, searching for unauthorized barking. It even documented my attempts to grill chicken without turning it into balsa wood, claiming my smoke levels exceeded community standards she'd conjured up that very morning. Unbelievable. Once I caught her crouched behind my hedge, furiously scribbling notes about my wind chimes being audibly non-compliant. When I confronted her, she straightened up, a haughty sneer on her face, declaring she was conducting an official HOA inspection of potentially rebellious garden features. She even had a decibel meter app on her phone, recording my chimes for 17 agonizing minutes, just waiting for them to cross her arbitrary noise threshold. Could you imagine? She photographed my welcome mat, asserting it was placed at a psychologically aggressive angle. She used a laser level to measure my garden gnome, claiming it violated a statute on lawn ornamentation no one else had ever heard of. And the fines. She issued them like coupons for eternal damnation. $25 for grass 2 inches too tall, $50 for a basketball hoop visible from the street, $75 for bird feeders attracting non-approved bird species. What was a non-approved bird? When I dared to appeal, my forms mysteriously vanished, and she promptly posted an HOA bulletin titled, "Neighbors who do not care about property values." Guess who graced the cover? Me, in my bathrobe getting the morning paper, captured by her telephoto lens, implying I was a harbinger of moral decay. The sheer audacity. Her harassment intensified week after week. She'd measure my grass with a ruler at 6 a.m. on Saturdays, waking me with the blinding flash of her camera documenting her findings. She photographed my trash cans from 17 different angles, compiling a PowerPoint on optimal bin placement. I even received certified letters about a spider web in my porch light being a sign of negligent home maintenance, complete with articles about property devaluation she'd printed from the most dubious corners of the internet. Her husband, Richard, a man with eyes as hollow as forgotten promises, would sometimes materialize behind her during these inspections. He'd mouth a silent, "Sorry," when Brenda wasn't looking, then retreat to his garage. Neighbors whispered he had a hidden mini fridge of beer and a comfy chair, where he'd sit for hours, undoubtedly pondering the catastrophic turns his life had taken. The other board members were equally defeated. Sarah just nodded absently at Brenda's every pronouncement. Mark spent meetings lost in elaborate doodles. Linda had perfected 37 different inflections of "yes, dear" to sidestep conflict. It was a complete farce. Then came the fateful day, the day of the explosion. She launched her upgraded spy drone, FPV goggles, a carbon frame, and a camera so powerful it could read license plates from 300 feet. This was the kind of equipment you buy when you mistake neighborhood governance for a covert special forces operation. She'd blown $4,000 of HOA funds on this surveillance gear, ludicrously deeming it essential infrastructure for maintaining community standards. There she stood in her driveway, a suburban cyborg, goggles strapped on, piloting that drone with aggressive, almost maniacal precision. She plunged low along my side yard, relentlessly pursuing a shot of my scandalous compost bin, convinced it harbored non-approved organic matter. The drone darted and spun like a deranged mechanical wasp, its propellers shrieking as she pushed it far beyond safe operating speeds. And then it happened. At precisely 2:47 p.m., my security camera captured it. The drone clipped my gas meter, its carbon fiber blades shearing the line. That whisper of escaping gas rapidly escalated into a terrifying roar. The pilot light from my water heater, an innocent flicker, did the rest. Boom! The explosion ripped my roof 6 feet into the air before it crashed back down at an angle that would make MC Escher gasp. My kitchen was no more. It had become my backyard. My backyard became a desolate field of debris. My neighbor's cat, who minutes before had been napping peacefully on my deck, achieved unexpected low Earth orbit before making a miraculously soft landing in the community pool 3 houses away. The fire department arrived first, 6 massive trucks screaming into our quiet cul-de-sac like an invading army. Then the fire marshal, his white SUV ablaze with enough emergency lights to be seen from the moon. Eventually, a stern-faced man in an ATF windbreaker appeared, the very serious finale to this bizarre parade, followed by investigators from the FAA, the State Fire Unit, and 2 insurance adjusters who looked like they'd rather be anywhere but here. Brenda, the absolute nerve, tried to stash the controller in her tennis bag, but Officer Kelly had already witnessed everything. Her body cam caught her nervously stammering that she didn't intend to surveil his gas infrastructure, a flimsy excuse that, as it turns out, offered precisely zero absolution. The fire marshal meticulously photographed the drone, still impaled in my gas line, while Brenda babbled on, her voice trembling, about documenting code violations for the good of the community. But I had receipts. My doorbell cam footage captured the drone's kamikaze descent in glorious high definition, from normal surveillance height to gas meter impact. And my neighbors, they emerged from their homes like villagers armed with pitchforks, each bearing their own damning evidence against the monster among us. The Johnsons had texts where Brenda brazenly boasted about proactive aerial enforcement, and her grand plans for thermal imaging surveillance. The Patels had videos of the drone hovering outside their bedroom window at 11 p.m. The Washingtons had emails detailing her scheme to put GPS trackers on trash cans to ensure proper post-collection positioning. When the HOA email server was finally subpoenaed, it coughed up drafts of her newsletters titled Operation Compliance Guys and itemized lists of HOA funds spent on propellers, batteries, a GoPro, and something ominously called a tactical surveillance package from a website that undoubtedly landed her on a government watch list. The fire marshal's report screamed gross negligence in letters so immense they devoured 3 lines. The ATF agent's report was even denser, referencing federal statutes I had to Google to comprehend. Then an FAA investigator appeared at Brenda's door, badge gleaming, a facial expression so severe it could curdle milk. And, for the first time in recorded history, she didn't respond with a fine. She actually stammered, her infamous clipboard quivering, trying to explain she wasn't aware drones needed registration, or that flying them into critical infrastructure was a federal crime. Oh, the sweet irony. My insurance adjuster, Diane, a woman who'd seen every bizarre claim in her 30-year career, sided with me instantly after watching the footage. She actually let out a hearty laugh when she saw those ridiculous HOA stickers on the drone. Brenda's own adjuster took one look at the drone purchase receipts, her meticulously kept flight log detailing 317 unauthorized surveillance flights and the gaping crater where my kitchen used to be. Then he simply evaporated into an actuarial mist, leaving behind only a business card and a whispered, "Good luck." An emergency board meeting was called, and they actually refused to let Brenda hold the microphone. She brought her own portable PA system. They unplugged it. She tried a megaphone. They confiscated that too. The evidence against her piled up like a paper avalanche, threatening to bury the entire HOA board under its crushing weight. The drone receipts revealed she'd used HOA credit cards without board approval. Clear embezzlement. The flight logs exposed her round-the-clock surveillance missions, with particular attention paid to anyone who had ever dared to question her authority. Her emails discussing targeting specific homeowners she dubbed the non-compliant 7 detailed chilling plans for psychological warfare through strategic fining. She even created a spreadsheet, color-coded and everything, ranking every homeowner by their threat level to her reign. I was threat level red, with 3 terrifying exclamation points. The meeting transformed into a makeshift courtroom, held in the community center amidst folding chairs and the stale scent of old coffee and broken dreams. The ATF and FAA agents stood at the front, looking like stern, disappointed parents, meticulously outlining the penalty buffet. It included reckless endangerment, criminal mischief, destruction of property, operating an unregistered aircraft, violating controlled airspace regulations, and a stack of aviation violations taller than the HOA covenants themselves. Brenda, ever the narcissist, desperately tried to pivot to morality. "But what about the non-compliant compost?" she shrieked. The room hissed, a collective sigh of angry snakes. People who had endured her tyranny for years finally had their moment. Mrs. Lee stood up, recounting how Brenda had fined her for culturally inappropriate garden vegetables. Mr. Davis revealed she'd tried to ban his veteran's flag as unnecessarily patriotic. The young couple from Maple Street explained how Brenda had measured their baby stroller to ensure it met HOA storage specifications. Each story was another nail in her coffin, adding crushing weight to the mountain of evidence. Her face cycled through a rainbow of emotions, from furious red to indignant purple, finally settling on a sickly pale that suggested she might actually faint. The treasurer, Gerald, a nervous wreck who had been bullied into his position, announced in a grim, cracking voice that the insurer was denying the HOA claim because Brenda had used HOA funds for unauthorized aerial surveillance. This meant the board faced a staggering $300,000 special assessment unless they filed personal claims against Brenda and removed her immediately. 30 hands shot into the air like prairie dogs sensing impending doom. The vote was 42-0, with 1 abstention. Her husband, Richard, suddenly found the ceiling utterly engrossing, studying its acoustic tiles as if they held the secrets to the universe. In my favorite moment, the FAA agent confiscated the drone and with two crisp federal fingernails, peeled off those tacky HOA stickers, maintaining unwavering eye contact with Brenda the entire time. Ah, justice. The criminal charges hit like a clap of thunder on a perfectly clear day. The prosecutor, Officer Kelly, who seemed personally offended by the misuse of drone technology and probably had been waiting her entire career for a case this absurd, laid out the case with surgical precision. She had exhibits labeled A through QQ, including a scale model of my destroyed house, used to dramatically demonstrate the drone's exact flight path. Brenda's lawyer, a man whose face screamed, "I regret every life choice that led me here, including law school," weakly argued she was merely an overzealous volunteer protecting property values. Judge Miller, with a voice that could freeze lava, retorted, "Operating an unregistered surveillance drone that destroys a home is not volunteer work, counselor. It's domestic terrorism with a side of stupidity." The courtroom erupted in gasps. The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses included every single neighbor she had ever fined, cited, or surveilled. The Hendersons brought a binder of fines spanning 5 years, totaling $12,000, for offenses ranging from unauthorized happiness during quiet hours to aggressive display of holiday spirit. My mind reeled. The jury deliberated for a mere 2 hours, though one juror later confessed they decided on guilt in the first 10 minutes and spent the rest sharing their own HOA horror stories. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. Judge Miller delivered the sentence with the gravity it deserved, his voice echoing through the courtroom as he listed each penalty. 2 years probation, during which she couldn't hold any position of authority, not HOA board member, not crossing guard, not even line leader at the grocery store. 1,000 hours of community service, specifically serving the very neighborhood she terrorized, including lawn maintenance for every household she'd ever fined for grass violations. A fine of $37,000 paid in monthly installments, which would take her precisely as long to pay off as it would take to rebuild my obliterated home. And a no-fly order. She was banned from anything with a propeller, the annual neighborhood fan charity ride, remote-controlled toys, even those little handheld fans people use at theme parks. Actual tears streamed down her face, her perfectly applied makeup smearing in streaks. The court placed a lien on her home to cover my $180,000 rebuild costs, and the HOA permanently barred her from any board position until the year 2099, a date the secretary emphatically wrote in Sharpie on a framed document. Brenda stood there, mouth agape, opening and closing like a fish out of water, as the judge's gavel came down with a final, deeply satisfying crack that resonated through the courtroom. It was the universe itself finally delivering justice.